Hi there, this is Alex Kurm from Kurm Consulting, and I want to thank you for showing some interest in this free process mapping solution called Elements.cloud. So over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to demonstrate and show you some key features of this really powerful process mapping tool. Now, I know what you're thinking. This guy's going to try to sell me something. But seriously, there's nothing for sale here. The tool is completely free. And more importantly, it's free for as many users as you like in your organization, as many editors, as many viewers as you want forever. Okay? There's no gimmicky trial period, nothing like that. It is literally free forever. So now you're probably wondering, well, what's in it for me? Why am I even telling you this? Well, here's why. Like you, I'm actually a very passionate process improvement practitioner. I've been doing this job my entire life. And throughout that career, I wish I had a tool like this at my disposal. I wish this tool existed so that I didn't have to struggle with other process documentation tools that just didn't cut it. So this is, my gift to you is a free application. When I became aware of this application a little while ago, I've been doing everything I can to make all my process practitioners and friends and colleagues aware of it because A, it's free, and B, don't let the fact that it's free fool you. It is a very powerful solution, much more powerful than any solution you've worked with in the past, including things like Visio or Lucidchart. So frankly, this tool is extremely robust, very easy to use, and you should be replacing your Visio and Lucidcharts immediately with Elements.cloud. Okay, so now that we got those questions out of the way, I promised you a quick demo. So let's have a look at what this solution is all about. So let's just talk through some of these key features that you get with the free version of Elements. So right off the bat, you get detailed process maps, right? You can create as many process maps as you like, as deep, and you can go as deep and as complex as you want. There's no limits with the free version as to how much you want to map. So on top of the maps, you can attach any sort of policy, procedure, any sort of hyperlink directly to your activity steps, right to your process map, so that your process flow and the detailed procedures around how to perform those activities are all together. Also, what you can do, and some clients do this, they can actually link out to their various risk information, control information, compliance information, whether it's ISO or SOX compliance, or even food industry's got a HACCP compliance. So you can link to all of these things, which brings now your key control information, risk information, policy, procedures, and maps all together. And on top of that, you can actually build your own requirements gathering in Elements. You can attach those requirements directly to process steps, which again brings that together. And you can create corrective actions and track the progress and statusing of your corrective actions and your requirements all in one place. Additionally, you can do custom data tables, create custom data tables to gather various process data of your business. And finally, for those Salesforce customers, this Elements.cloud solution is actually deployed or can be deployed inside your Salesforce org with the free solution as well. So here's what Elements looks like once you've opened it up. And when you're in Elements, Elements organizes all of its content into something called spaces. For your organization, you might just have the one space. Obviously, I've got a whole bunch because I do a lot of demos. But in a particular space, you can have a bunch of requirements that you build and manage. You can have maps. You can have something called reference models. Now, reference models and URL libraries and releases, these three features actually don't come free. They come with the paid version of this application, and I'll get to that in a moment in some of those features. But first off, when you look at the maps, you could have a whole bunch of your process maps listed here in one central repository, okay? And for any given map, and let's just open up one that I've got here. So here's a draft map of an order-to-cash process. So when you look at this high-level order-to-cash process, right away what's striking is your activity boxes basically are depicted here of what's happening, what's that verb noun of what you're doing to some sort of an input to create an output. Not only that, on every single activity box, you can list who's the resource that performs that activity and are they using an application of some kind, okay? If I wanted to see further details around how to process my order, Well, I'm not going to put those 10, 20 steps on this same page. In fact, you can actually put them hierarchically in a drill down below here. So I simply click it, go down, and create the next layer of detail of how I now process an order. And I can continue to go down deeper if I want to, as deep as you want. There's no limits to how far you want to go and how low you go. Now, at the highest level again, the other thing you'll notice is some basic information that every single map and diagram has about it. So on the right-hand panel, you can see that Elements in the free version for every single diagram will capture who's the process owner for that diagram, who authored it, when was it last modified and first created. All of that goes with the process content for every one. Also, edit rights in terms of who can view who can edit the map and who's able to view it. And if you look at each of these activity steps, they also have paperclips. And the paperclips basically just mean there's an attachment of some kind. And this is where Elements is hugely valuable. You can start attaching any information you want to make the step more valuable, more informative for the users. So for quoting an order, if I want to see a procedure of how to do that, well, here we go. Here's perhaps a procedure on how to quote the order. I simply click it, and if I want, I can open the link. It'll take me right to that page to view what that procedure is all about. I've also chosen to attach a bunch of other stuff here. Okay, literally, there's lots of different things you can attach to every step. In this case, I've attached to the fulfill order step a risk assessment. Again, this all comes free. You can attach custom data tables, like I mentioned, where in this case, I'm building a risk assessment and risk data, attaching it right to a process step. You can put in all sorts of different information around, what sort of information you want to gather around this particular process step. And then once you gather this information, you can basically attach it to this step and then run reports on it whenever you want to say, show me everywhere that I've got, this piece of data, which map is it associated with? Or show me, which step has these certain types of risks associated with it. So it's a highly valuable way to gather data around your process. The other thing you can do is, if you want to build your map from scratch, it's actually pretty straightforward. You simply drag and drop your boxes right onto the canvas, or you can double click anywhere you want and a new activity box gets created. Flow lines are pretty simple. You can basically click on the box and start creating flow lines, putting them wherever you want to go, and it's fairly intuitive that way. Okay. You can also drag over text boxes if you want. Images, unfortunately, aren't covered in the free version, but with a paid version, you can bring in images as well. Sticky notes, if you want to make notes on opportunities. This is especially useful if you're running some kind of a process workshop or a Kaizen event. You can actually build your process map live in Elements and start doing sticky notes against opportunities that you might find against your process. The other thing you can do is, if you're more used to seeing process maps that actually have swim lanes, you can toggle on and off different swim lanes of your business processes, okay? And then orient your boxes wherever they gotta go, and you're off to the races. Now, one more feature to show you before I show you some really cool stuff with this tool, Elements. So you can, as I mentioned before, manage and build and manage all of your requirements in Elements as well. So if I click on requirements, I've listed a whole bunch of different requirements here, different demonstration requirements. So what I'll do is I'll take a specific example. So let's say you created a business requirement for an e-signature. You want to roll out an electronic signature capability for your whole business. So you create a requirement, okay? And so here we have a electronic signature capability. So some of the details that come with this. So first off, what is the actual requirement? What's required? Well, you want to replace all your wet signatures with an electronic signature. Great, perfect. What's the priority of it? What's the priority of it? What's the impact and risk to the business? Who created it? When was it submitted? So all of these things that you normally capture as part of a requirements gathering process is actually done inside Elements for you really easily. And not only that, you can actually attach all kinds of information to make your requirement even more valuable. To say, hey, let's add an attachment of a detailed description or a write-up of the specific requirement. Maybe you've got a really detailed requirements document you want to attach. Or maybe you've got an image you want to attach or say, you know what, I want the electronic signature to look something like this. Okay, so you can attach images to these requirements. You can copy this link and say, now that I've built my requirement, here's what's really powerful. Let me go to a process step. Well, actually, let's go back here. Let's say when we actually let's say when we fulfill the order, we want to get an actual requirement, build a requirement here for a electronic signature. So I say attach, and what I've done now is I've attached that requirement right to this process step. There it is. I can run a report and say, show me every process map that this requirement's attached to, and vice versa. So it really makes the requirements gathering process very robust, very valuable. Okay. The other thing that you can do is once you do that, now when I scroll over here onto my requirements, you can see right away where is it attached. And wow, if I hover over here, I'll see that this electronic signature is actually attached as a requirement to this process map, and it's attached to this process map somewhere else. So again, very, very powerful way to do requirements gathering. One last thing I wanted to show you about requirements, you can actually link requirements with user stories. So if I click on stories, I can create a user story, for electronic signature for a particular resource or user in our organization. Okay, so in this case, I've decided to create a story for a customer service representative. So as a customer service rep, I want to be able to do these things so that I can do this acceptance criteria, and then of course tags and other information. And see this where it says Jira Dev Project. This is with the paid version of Elements, but you can actually upload this stuff right into Jira, making your life really simple. So in these last few minutes of this demonstration, I want to show you some really powerful stuff beyond what you just saw that are available to paid subscribers for Elements.cloud. And the paid subscription is still extremely affordable. So for $62 US a month, I believe, you get these additional features that I'm going to show you right now. So for every single process diagram, you get detailed change logs. So this is quite fantastic. So when you can look back visually as what the map looked like, in the last few sessions that you've been actually in this map doing stuff. It keeps track of this stuff for you automatically, and you can open it and revert to different ones. You have really, really valuable for auditors and high compliance. You have detailed version control, right? So I'm on the draft right now, but you can see that there's two versions of this map. There's a version 1 that's been archived, and you can look at that's version 1. And then here's version 2 that's promoted master copy out there and being consumed. But it keeps all of the version control for you, and you can revert to other versions whenever you want. You can show your regulators and auditors different versions and make sure that you're always working on the latest and greatest. Also, what else you can do with the paid version is this feature called reference models. So when I click this, it's actually quite fantastic. What you can do here is I've actually imported and integrated, linked directly with a Salesforce dev environment. So when I click on my Salesforce reference model here, what I've done is I've actually taken that Salesforce config file for you Salesforce admin gurus. Now this is basically the config file directly in Elements. And again, why is this so useful? Well, for a few reasons. One is if you take any one of these data fields, for example, if I take a particular data field, I could, if I wanted to, attach this data field to a process map and say, you know what, I want my account ID, and I'll basically, copy that link, go to a process map, and same thing, I can basically, attach it. When I switch to edit, I can attach it to any of these process steps I want. So now I'm showing at this process step, I'm gathering a specific, piece of information from my Salesforce config file right here. So if I attach it there, all of a sudden it's taken my account ID and from my Salesforce and attaching it directly there. So for those folks that use Salesforce, you're going to find this highly valuable because I can gather information about each of these fields, right? I can see what field is attached to which process map. And why is this useful? Because if I'm ever asked to change my business process, I can see, wow, here's how many Salesforce data points I'm gathering. So how do I got to modify my Salesforce configuration to accommodate a business change? And equally, if I make a change to my data fields in Salesforce, I should be able to know what processes am I affecting, because today you can't do that. So again, hugely valuable from a Salesforce perspective. But more than that, if I go back to reference models, the other thing you can do is, if you're in high compliance, regulatory, banking, financial services, you can upload key controls. So in this case, I've uploaded a central list of controls for a bank or a financial service organization. And then for each of these controls, if I click on any one of them, I can put in a general description of how to perform that control. If I go to my links section, I can see, wow, where is this control? It's on this process called fulfill order, and it's also on a process called my tax and data gathering steps, right? And I can add other attachments, and I can also collaborate around it and say, hey, listen, this control is ineffective, go fix it. And I can drive a whole bunch of work around that as well. So I can manage my controls centrally. And the final value of this reference model is when you look at something like the Salesforce one that I showed you, you have this little feature called GDPR. And for those folks that are familiar with this, huge regulatory changes taking place in the European Union, but actually it affects, people globally, you have the ability to see how many data fields can be affected or are affected perhaps by GDPR regulations. And just by simply turning on that feature and running a couple of little scripts, you can see right away how many fields are susceptible to GDPR. So again, if you need this from a GDPR perspective, very, very valuable. Okay guys, so I hope you found this video useful. That's Elements in a nutshell. Again, I really hope that you guys start using it today. I think it's a hugely valuable tool to support you in your process improvement needs, your process excellence aspirations. The free version has so much functionality. And then of course, if you even want to upgrade to the pro version, you're going to get all that additional functionality like version control and detailed change control, full integration with Salesforce, GDPR compliance. All of those things come with the pro version for only $62 a month, which is still extremely affordable relative to everything else that's out there in the process documentation world. So I want to thank you. If, however, you have any other questions about the tool that you still want some answers, there's another button below this video to book a quick 30-minute call with me to ask some questions and we can talk about the tool. Otherwise, there's a big button below the video. Click that. It'll take you right to Elements to sign up so you can get started today. And I want to thank you for your time and all the best.